jackpot storage auction buy. I bought this unit several years ago. It's been at least 5, 6, 7 years ago. I don't remember exactly how long, but it's been a while. I don't have any pictures of anything from this unit, any videos. It's all, but it's burned into my memory. I'll never forget. Basically, this unit I bought, if you're familiar with Atlanta, I bought this kind of on the north side of Atlanta, going toward the suburbs on South Cobb Drive, Cobb County. Bought this unit at a facility there. It's kind of it was a mom and pop, I guess you could say, but it's a really nice mom and pop, really nice building. I've gotten several really good units from there. And basically what happened was a live auction. They opened the room up. It's all inside units and everything. And this one was like a 10 by 20. When they opened the door, it went 10 foot deep, and then it went 20 foot to the side. So it was 10 foot but 20 foot. So you couldn't really see real good down there. But it was full of, toward the door you can see there was an old bike, like an old speed bike. Nothing really nice, just an old, probably from the 70s or something, but not one that was really worth much of anything like some of them can be. And everything was kind of old looking, and there was a lot of wardrobe boxes, those big tall boxes, or wardrobe type boxes, and garbage bags. Just a lot of old looking boxes. So first thought, it's like, looks like an older person stuff. You're gonna find vintage stuff. You're gonna find antiques and that kind of thing based off of the bike. A lot of people that were at the auction that day, they weren't really interested in old stuff. There's a lot of people that would come out and they wanted new modern stuff. They didn't really fool with old stuff very much. So luckily that day there wasn't a whole lot of people for that. I started the bid at $100. I almost got it for $100, and right before it was about to end, somebody did start to bid. And the bid went up a couple times, and there was another bidder there, that kind of a big time bidder that bought a lot of units, had a lot of money to spend. I'm bidding against a different guy, and that guy that has all the money and everything, he kind of looks over at me, and me and him were kind of friends. We've worked together and everything, and he just looks at me behind, nobody really notices, and he's like, just mouths, "Is that you?" And I looked at him and I just nodded my head. And at that point, he just backed off and he never bid. And even though he kind of looked at him, he just backed off and he didn't bid. So the other guy that was bidding, he bid a few times. I ended up getting this unit for $240. So pretty cheap, not bad at all. 10 by 20 with a lot of stuff in it. Probably about half full. So I won the unit for $240, and I don't know if I loaded it that day or not, I'm not sure, but I was loading it. I was loading it all by myself. I at least went in there and kind of looked around, but as I started to load it up, a lot of the boxes and stuff are just full of mostly paperwork. And I'm looking in there, and there's envelopes in there, and it looks like a restaurant, because the envelopes were for what the waitress and waiters would have put their tips in. Some of them had like a mouse on them and said something about tips, but I kind of looked through and there's like receipts. Most of them are just full of receipts, like restaurant receipts that, the individual customers would have had, but it was the restaurant's copy. And there's just envelopes and tons of other paperwork, but just tons of these envelopes with receipts in them. So I'm like, it's box after box after box. There's a few other things here and there, but it's mostly just all of these envelopes and receipts. So at that point I'm just like, this is mostly trash. But I gotta get it, so I'm loading it up, and I've got a 16-foot box truck, and I pretty much load this thing all the way up with what I thought was gonna be the majority trash. And we get it back to this was our old warehouse, different from what we have now. To where when you pulled the truck up, there was a big roll-up door, and then you went through the warehouse about 75 feet, and then we had another roll-up door, and then a big roll-off dumpster sitting out there. So we could just open that door and throw the stuff into the roll-off dumpster. So the lady that helps me, I get there, we kind of open up the truck, and I'm showing her there, and I'm like, this is mostly just trash. I'm like looking in there, I'm like, it's just envelopes full of receipts, it's just somebody's business, it's just mostly trash, it can go straight into the dumpster. We threw one box over into the dumpster, into the roll-off. There was already a bunch of stuff in it, so the roll-off's about half full. So we dumped that over into the dumpster. A little while later, she comes back to me. She's like, "Are you sure that's all trash?" And I'm like, "It looks like trash to me. As far as I know, it's all trash." She's like, "'Cause I found some money." And I'm like, "Okay," thinking she found $5 or something. And she had found over $200 in one of the envelopes. And I was like, "Are you serious?" And she shows me the money, and it's all this old style money like this. It was from back, I don't know when I think they stopped making this sometime in the 90s, early 90s or so, this style. But it was all this kind of money. So it's all, that's mostly like from the 70s and 80s, kind of in that range, that this kind of money was being circulated. And I'm like, what in the world? So we go, and she had some more envelopes in here, and we open up and there's more money. So then we go, I'm like, well, I just threw a whole box into the dumpster. So we go, and I jump down into the dumpster. So we're in the dumpster with all the other trash, but all these envelopes and stuff are on the top, and we start opening them up. And we're finding money. I mean, some of them only had like $1. This one had $15. This one had $20. But there was a bunch of money right here in these envelopes and everything. And just right there at the beginning, after we kind of got all that money together, and some of them just had change, like you're finding some that would have like quarters in it, whatever the case was. Change, paper money. And so we kind of gathered up everything that was right there in the box that she was going through, and I don't remember the exact total, but I know we were like over $500 right then, cash money. And I'm like, holy crap. I'm like, there's tons of these envelopes. What if, they're all throughout? So we start unloading it, and we start going through some of the envelopes, and we are finding, a lot of them were finding money. And like I said, anywhere from change to $1 to $5 to $50, $60. Every now and then you'd find a little bit more. But then you would go through a lot of envelopes, and you wouldn't find any money or anything at all. You would just be, envelope after envelope after envelope. But then about the time you're about ready to give up, you'd find some more money in one, and so then it kind of motivate you, and you keep looking again. So, we're going through that, and we're finding money and everything, and then we start to, kind of find some of the personal stuff and see, what the people are all about and everything. And they were from New York City. They had a restaurant in New York City, a pretty popular restaurant. They actually wrote a book and everything. It was a published book, and because this restaurant was famous. So they owned this restaurant, looks like primarily in the 80s. And it was a black family, and they looked like the Cosby family. And the reason I say that is because those sweaters that he would wear, those, in the 80s and 90s with the stripes on them and all the different designs, those, the nice sweaters, but those kind of funky designs. There was a lot of pictures of, all the men in the family wearing all those kind of sweaters. So that, they kind of reminded me of the Cosby family. But at some point, for whatever reason, they moved everything down here to the Atlanta area. But it almost looked like they weren't very organized, maybe in the office. And I'm thinking they just went in there and started throwing all the paperwork and everything in there, and all these envelopes, that was tip money that somehow, I guess the servers got paid and this money got mixed up. I don't know exactly what happened, but all this got put into boxes and then ended up in storage here, and then I ended up winning it. So, and then we're also in the pictures, we're seeing like a lot of the pictures, they were dressed pretty nice, and they had, like, the women had really nice, you could tell, it was so nice in the pictures, you could tell it was real gold. Back in the 80s, and these kind of big gaudy chains and different stuff, and I was like, man, it'd be nice if that was in here. So there's still a bunch of stuff left in the unit. I go back and I get the rest of the stuff out of the unit. At that point, I'm excited because I know there's good stuff in there, so I'm throwing it all in there. And there was even at one point a huge garbage bag, one of those big black garbage bags that, like construction bags, and it's just full of stuff. The bag's ripping everything. When I'm out loading the truck up, and in the parking lot there where I'm loading the box truck up, and this bag, and I'm trying to move it, and it's ripped on the bottom. There's change just coming out of it. And I'm talking like a bunch of change. And I'm like, man, this thing is full of change. You know how much change is in here? I mean, the whole bag's not, but there's a bunch of change at the bottom. I can just hear it rattling around everything. And we put that bag on and load everything up, and we end up continuing to go through, and we're finding more money in the envelopes. But like I said, you'd go through one garbage bag and like a whole garbage full, and you're going through them, and you wouldn't find anything, or you might find $5 in the whole thing. and for a while you wouldn't find, and you kind of start to give up, but then you would find some more. You find an envelope, oh, here's $50 in this envelope. So it just kind of kept you motivated and hooked on going through. So we went through a lot of boxes and bags. I remember a few times it was kind of late in the day, everybody's going, and I'd go through it, and I'd get to the end, one more bag. You were kind of addicted. One more, let me just see, one more bag, what's in it? Because you're thinking, what if I have one and there's $100 bills in every single envelope? That didn't happen, but you're finding money at that point, so you're just wondering, that you're thinking that's a chance anyways. As far as, the envelopes, there's literally thousands and thousands of these envelopes in the unit. Garbage bags full, boxes full. I mean, it's thousands, just, one after another. And then there's also one other thing that we found in the unit. So is we found the money, and then I found a coin, had the certificate of authenticity and everything, and this coin was from a shipwreck, a Spanish shipwreck back in the 1700s. They had found this shipwreck back in the 80s. They had found it somewhere, it was down off the Florida Keys. They found the shipwreck, recovered a lot of the other things, and then they, graded these coins and put them in plaques and everything and gave it a certificate, and then, at some point or other sold them. I don't remember exactly what that went for. I sold it on eBay for a few $100s, based more than the unit cost that one coin paid for. And going through everything, and I get to that bag, that garbage bag that had the change falling out, and I kind of start to open it up, and there's stuff it's just a big jumbled up mess. And I find there's like some gold spilling out of like a little box, like jewelry and stuff, and I'm like, this is gold, this looks like the stuff that was in the pictures. And then I start seeing some of the pieces that were actually in those pictures. I could just recognize because they were big and naughty, and they were just easily recognizable. And you're looking at it, and immediately I'm like, this has got to be gold. But some of them were so heavy and big, you don't usually find pieces like that. But I start to, I'm looking at the markings, and you can just tell by the markings immediately, the stamps that are on there, because they're so well done, everything, that it's real. And then there was some silver pieces, like some really nice silver pieces in there, but there was a ton of gold. Probably the most gold I've found, especially like really nice gold and everything in this unit. There was this one bracelet, it was 14 karat, like a chain bracelet, and it had all these little like charms hanging on it, but the charms were actually gold coins. And they were real gold coins from like different countries, like a Russian gold coin. There was a couple American, and they're dangling all of the bracelets. So the bracelets 14 karat gold, the coins are 14 karat gold, and then the coins are also potentially collectible. That bracelet I put that thing on eBay, started at 99 cents, and ended up selling for $2,500 for that one bracelet. And there was a lot of gold in this thing, and really nice pieces of silver. So basically what happened is, one second here, is by the time it was all said and done, the cash money that we found in these envelopes added up to right around $5,500. So I paid $240, ended up with about $5,500 cash. I mean, it was a lot of work. We went, it took a long time to go through all those envelopes and everything, but that's a pretty good payoff. Also the coin from the shipwreck, and then also if that stuff wouldn't have been in there, if it had just been what was in the boxes, there was probably only, I'd say, $300 to $400 worth of stuff in this unit besides the money and the gold and everything. So it would have been a loser unit, because there would have been so much work, so much trash, that would have been a loser unit. I would have literally lost money by the time I had my expenses and everything. But I had the $5,500 cash. I had the coin from the shipwreck. And then I also had the gold, which the gold ended up being way more, the value of the gold way more than the cash, way more. And basically, that unit, like I said, it was what I would call a jackpot unit. We actually, at the time, we were kind of just getting started in the business really, so a lot of times we didn't have a lot of money. We were, like most people when they're starting a business, a lot of times struggling. So we paid a lot of bills with that. We actually went to Disney World. Me, my wife, and my son, we went to Disney World. We had fun. And really for about the next year and a half, that unit paid off. Like I was able to pay for stuff, and with the gold and everything that was in that unit. So I mean, basically, you know, at least a year, maybe somewhere between a year and 2 years that I was selling stuff from that unit, and you know, just selling a chunk at a time of gold whenever I needed money for something that had a big bill or expense come up. So the unit, I mean, is one of the best ones that I ever got. And the thing is, we came this close to possibly throwing all that money away, because it was that very first box that the lady that helps me, Shannon, she found the money, because she was like, well, let me kind of take a look through to make sure I'm you know, make sure there's nothing in here, and she found that. But like I said, there was some boxes and bags that really had no money in it. So if we were throwing one of those in there first, and she would have kind of looked through and not found anything, then at that point we probably would have just been throwing a lot of that away without really looking at it, and we could have potentially thrown all that money away. So it was very, very close, and we got lucky that the first box or bag that we threw away was one that just happened to have a lot of the cash money that we found right away in it, because we could have easily thrown all that away. And there would have been a lot of people, if they would have gotten that unit, would have never looked into it. We almost did. They would have never looked at it. They would have taken that stuff straight to the dump and thrown it away and never known. And they would have missed out. And the thing, like I said, it was all this old money, every bit of it, because it was all from the 80s. It was all this old money right here. Literally, a few times, you know, I'd go to the store and I would spin it, and they would, you know, it'd be like a teenager or, you know, 20-year-old at the counter, and they would just kind of look at it. And they just kind of sit there staring. I'd be like, it's real. It's just older money. And they would just look and stare. And then a couple times they had to go and ask. It was funny. They had to go and ask the boss or whoever it was if they could take the money, because they were so not used to seeing this older money that they, I guess, it looked counterfeit to them. I'm not sure. You know, you don't really see it much anymore. But you know, when I was a kid, I remember this was how all the money looked until they changed the design. But it goes out of circulation pretty quick. So that was, you know, what I call a jackpot unit. Cash money, gold, almost threw all the cash away. Disappointed at first, disappointed, and then it turned to, you know, this is awesome. And one of the funnest units, you know, one of the best units I've ever gotten, one of the funnest units. Because once you start realizing that there's potentially money in any of these envelopes, and there's thousands of them, it's just like, give me another bag, give me another bag. And you're just ripping open. And that was a fun one. So anything can happen when you buy these storage units. I mean, it was a $240, you know, I thought it was going to be an old lady stuff, vintage and antique items, to, you know, you just never know. I've been surprised many times, and you can spend $2,000 on one and not really find them in a lot of garbage, and you can spend $240, or you can spend $1 and, hit a jackpot. So I've got way more stories, and we're going to be doing, you know, way more live, you know, loading of storage units. I've got, you know, lots of stories like this one, old stories that before I was videotaping anything, before I took pictures of a lot of this stuff. And, you know, we'll be doing different videos on thrifting, you know, our thrift store, and our auction, and, you know, just about resale business in general, tips, video logs, all that kind of thing. So if you like this video, like it, comment down below if you want. Hit the subscribe button, and we're going to be putting out a lot more content. Thank you.